All right. So I'm just a stupid dog, and this is going to be a slow roll take of takes from the standpoint of myself, the dog, but secretly it's a take of takes for the Shane Gillis, uh, whatever we call it. I think we call it the symbiosis Shane Gillis or Shane Gillis predatory, globbing onto. We're trying to hook our star up to Shane Gillis's wagon. I mean, Shane is a whatever. It's okay. But anyways, so the producer, he said that I bombed, even though I had 400 some views. I didn't get that many subscribers of my takedown of Shane Gillis's zombie-esque walkthrough of the Monday Night Football simulcast. The producer said, this is the way it should have been done. And he gave me 75 pages, not of notes, it's a script. Shane Gillis did a better job than everyone thought he did, according to the producer. There's two guys in the world that thought Shane Gillis did a better job than the rest of the earth felt. There's two guys. One of them Shane and the other one's the producer. All right? But, Shane had a great time on the Manning podcast, according to unnamed sources. According to unnamed sources, and I asked our producer, I was like, who the hell are these unnamed sources? He says, a friend. I have a friend who told me. I was like, your friend? How's your friend know? And then I was like, you sound like, old Donald J. Old big Donald J. People are saying. I heard people saying. People are saying. That's a funny quote. People could be saying, I don't know. Maybe people are saying. The producer claims he watched the Manning podcast, which it really isn't a podcast. It's a simulcast. Okay? For all the people that think, everybody's supposed to be so modern and hoity-toity, these two white boys are not getting into the whole podcast thing because the podcast thing is a little bit too racial, It's too racially diverse. Podcast should have I think the podcast, here's the thing I think, if you're going to say that you have to have this many senators, this many Congress, this many corporate Americans, I have to be, just let's pick out the blacks, blame the blacks for a sec, or just not blame, but illustrate. It could be the Mexicans, it could be the Orientals, it could be the Asians, it could be the Condolenese. The Condolenese could be like, hey, we need representation of 0.00018. And until I see 0.0018, the Congolese are going to be bitching. But the black people, just say you take the black people. The blacks could say, we have a certain percentage of, we have a certain percentage of the populace. Maybe it's 22%. We should have 22% corporate America executives, 22%, lifeguards maybe down there in Okinawa or maybe up there in Palm Beach. Who knows? These guys are like, we need 22% of Walmart managers. We need 22% all the good jobs. The factory jobs still that are left up there in Detroit. They got to have 22% of the corporate America things and 22% of the House of Representatives. That's good. It's fine. We need 22% of the running backs and 22% of the freaking D-backs. Okay? We need 22% of the NBA. Okay? Give me 22% of the NBA. We'll give you 22% of the Senate. Sheesh, who even wants the Senate? He'd rather be in the NBA than in the Senate. Everybody knows that. You know what I'm saying? But that's a stupid aside. That was too racially thing. I didn't mean to make it that way, but I was like, if you're going to have it this way, it's got to be the other way too, right? You know what I'm saying? If it's this way, it has to be the other way. Shane thought he did a better job than anyone else thought. Just the producer and Shane thought he did a phenomenally great job. But then when I kind of got into it, the producer says, during Matt and Shane's secret podcast, Shane said that, this is to quote Shane directly, I enjoyed the Manning podcast. I was just fucked up from the night before. And so, yeah, maybe I was a little sleepy. Maybe I was a little slow off the draw. I was super fucked up from the night before. I probably still had a little bit of twinge, alcohol poisoning in my corpuscles over here. Shane said. You know, people inferred that I was drinking. Shane said, people inferred that I was drinking during the Manning podcast. And we're like, Shane, you said you were fucked up from the night before. You were sleepy Joed. You didn't know what was going on. And everybody was like, wow, Shane, Shane's going to nail like something to get a little hair off the dog that bit him. So we know, Shane, you're going to be back in the sauce well before you were probably just praying to God you could stay sober enough to make the initial couple minutes. And then you were hoping adrenaline would kick in, and you realized that wasn't going to happen. You started pounding whatever was in your secret cup of ice. You know, the producer's like, Shane, if Shane didn't have a Bud Light in his hand, you know he wasn't doing this, that, or the other thing. If Shane was drinking, he would have had a Bud Light in his hand. I said, the producer, Shane gets paid to drink Bud Light. If Shane wants to get fucked up, he's going to drink, vodka and prune juice on ice in a big Tupperware cup. That's what Shane was doing, so that's how I know that's what he would do. Shane said, people inferred I was drinking. You would have known if I was drinking if I would have had a Bud Light in my hand, Shane said. Not a cup of iced beer or whatever. Shane, we know it wasn't iced beer. It was a hardcore booze, barely, whatever you say, tempered with some prune juice, Shane. You know what I'm saying? Shane's biggest quote. I mean, if I wanted to quote Shane, it would be, the Manning boys are a couple of bros. According to Shane, it comes down to this. Shane says the Manning boys are a couple of bros, and they'd be happy to have me come back. According to Shane, when he did his own secret podcast with his little buddy, he said the Mannings love me. They wanted to adopt me. They want me to come and join the Manning clan. They want me to go down there in Mississippi and march around and talk about whatever it was. And also they wanted to play catch with the football and two-hand touch. We were going to play two-hand touch. Shane was like, God bless me and the Mannings. We were going to play two-hand. Anyways, Shane did a much better job than anyone thought. And everyone should be proud of Shane, no matter how, whatever. We should all bury our heads up on our own asses and say, Shane, you're just the best, big guy. Whatever. I'm a stupid dog. It all comes down to there's a certain amount of, admiration or worship or jealousy. Probably it's mostly jealousy, as a dog. It probably just comes down to that whole thing where I'm trying to tear Shane down because he's so gifted and I'm such a fucking putz. And I wish I could do what Shane does, but I can't. So I try to attack him and rip him down. So maybe if I could tear him down into a puddle of pus on the ground, maybe I could feel better about myself over here. I don't know. I'm a stupid dog. Dogs don't really think that way, but I thought that would be good to say, I thought that would be kind of a good thing to say every way. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. Sorry. Don't worry about it. The dogs, listen, the worst thing about a dog, they're not going to worry about if somebody's been torn down to a puddle of pus. They're going to say, hey, can I still sniff the part of the puddle where his ass is so I could get a little fragrance and know who we're talking about here? Is there some portion of the puddle of pus that still is concentrated mostly of his ass so I could get a little sniff and then I could identify him that way? And I could know who he is and I could, next time I see him, if he pulls through, next time I see him, I say, God bless, I knew you when you were just a puddle of pus on the ground. I sniffed your ass so I could memorize who you were so I could be standing here talking to you if you perhaps pulled through. I'm so thankful that you pulled through so I could be standing here talking to you today. That's what I would say. If I was a stupid dog, I'd be like, Shane, I sniffed your ass so that I would know once I met you when you were down on your luck, it would be Shane Gillis. No one could recognize you but me because I knew what your ass smelled like. That's the benefit of being a dog. It's just plain and simple. That's the benefit of being a dog. Besides dog remembrance and a couple other things, I don't know. Well, don't worry about it.